All right, good evening, everybody. We're doing a special release episode in honor of the late Greg Biffle and his family and the crew that was on that plane. Um, if you're a NASCAR fan, especially from the 90s and up, or your local tracks, Biffle was somebody that, he made headlines all the time, and he performed at every level. But my immediate thought right outside of the race car goes back to last year with the hurricane that devastated Asheville and the impact that he had. I'll let Chip, because you're both a North Carolina resident and in that area, can speak to it better. But I just remember, okay, we see a lot of NASCAR drivers when they retire and they step out of the seat, they kind of fade into the background. And Biffle never really did that. Biffle has been around in various capacities, and this is one of those guys who he was in NASCAR when the salaries were high and the money was good, but he didn't take his money and walk away. He's continued to reinvest it both in his participation in at the local tracks, as I'll let you allude to, Chip, and then you know with what we saw after the hurricane. He has a helicopter, a private helicopter, a private plane, and he got with Cletus, and they did amazing things last year to help a lot of people who were desperately in need when the government wasn't able to fill that need, and did so at his own peril because those conditions they were trying to land in and deliver supplies to were very dangerous. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chip, and I'll let you go ahead.
I would just want to say I was heartbroken. You know, I you never expect to wake up and hear that kind of news, and just what a terrible tragedy. I mean, the whole Biffle family, just Christina and Ryder and Emma, along with Greg, just a terrible day. And I was 100% directly impacted by what Biffle was doing for Western North Carolina. I live about 4 miles from his Triple B Ranch, but my place of employment, we were shut down for about 2.5 months because of the damage from the hurricane. And it was absolutely ridiculous what that man did for Western North Carolina. The you just it was. Did you hear what Biffle did today? He brought in chainsaws, man. Did you hear what he did today? He brought in oxygen. Did you hear what Biffle did today? He found somebody. He saved somebody. And he was. I mean, you know, he was a hero. I mean, we use. I feel like we use that term a lot, but I don't think we really understand what it means to be a hero. And, yeah, we call somebody a hero for being tremendous on a football field or being tremendous on a racetrack. Greg Biffle was a hero because of the person he was and the lives that he saved. And he 100% saved lives. He found people. He brought oxygen, water, parts, pieces, things that people had to have to be able to survive. And he called in favors.
Yep.
Anybody that he ever worked with before, Granger, he called 3M, he called all these different people and said, "Hey, look,
Yeah,
that
he was
autograph
friends
says
with
that."
Starlink to get, communications up in there. And
Yep. But he's like, "Remember that appearance I came and signed autographs for? Well, I'm going to need some parts and pieces for that." He just just a tremendous effort for what he did. And they I don't think people realize just how much time he spent here and how many flights he made. And it made the news that people were like, "Hey, we got to get this redneck out of the air and let the military do their thing." And Biffle said, "You're gonna have to shoot me down." And he was very adamant that he was not going to stop. And he was like, "I'm not in anybody's way. I'm not preventing anybody from doing anything. I'm doing my own thing. If I get in your way, I'll move." But he was just the the search for people and then the supplies that he brought in is absolutely incredible, and it just uplifted the spirits. I've seen a couple of fire captains that Biffle stopped off and dropped off supplies with. They were just like he would. Not only did he drop stuff off, he stopped to talk to them and play the role of race car driver and sign some autographs and stuff like that. But I mean, he was a hero. And a lot of people might not realize the Triple B 100 is where he's ran it for several years. It's a bunch of old beat up Crown Vics and
Yep.
Buicks at his ranch, and Cletus was there this year. It was hilarious. It was great to see. It's it and All the money went to my county, Rutherford County EMS and fire department. I mean, he didn't charge an astronomical amount of money. It's $20 a car, as many people as you could fit in a car for $20, and all that money went back to Rutherford County. You could buy a grilled cheese sandwich and a bowl of chili, and he was paying for the chili and the grilled cheese sandwich because all of that money went back to Rutherford County. He just was an absolutely amazing, um, outstanding individual, and my heart aches for the family, for the loved ones, for everybody because, I mean, he was a great human being. Take the racing out of it, he was a great human being, and I'm gonna miss him. I'm not claiming to be the biggest Greg Biffle fan. I don't have his phone number in my back pocket, but I can absolutely respect him and respect what he did for my county, for my state, for my county, for Chimney Rock, for Avery County, for Spruce Pine, Marion, uh, all these places that are really close to me. I work in, I live in. I'm family members directly affected by it. That he went and helped, and just what a tragedy, and I'm holding back tears now, man, just thinking about what the loss means. But I feel like we need people to know just how much of a hero he was, and just how good of a person he was, not just the racing stuff, but off the track. And just I'm proud to call him a neighbor. I'm proud to say that he was a great person.
Yeah, I first off, I think that's great just hearing from the local perspective because I was a non North Carolinian. I don't know of the impact these guys have when they're in their own backyard. You hear little bits and pieces, but a lot of it's done behind the scenes. They do it very quietly, whether that's Tony with, lending out his plane or Dale Jr. lending out his plane, during events and things like that, or when Dale Sr. used to do it. So it's just a reminder, like you said, to the point of the things that he did without recognition and putting a big look at me sign on there. To me, it's a reminder not just of his impact, but just it's a reminder of just how great our sport is. Even while we've been talking about the war between NASCAR leadership and the drivers and the team owners and everything, that I still firmly believe NASCAR is one of the most patriotic sports on the planet. Like they love their country, but they love their fellow man. Like they all have different initiatives. With Greg, with his Triple B Ranch, he's one of the first I remember for, especially because I'm a big animal lover. So he had his animal stuff he did during his racing career, and then afterwards. Like you said, he started that. I remember when they first started that Crown Vic race, and that just sounded like a hell of a good time. Like, just a bunch of beat up Crown Vics. Let's go out there, race for fun, race some money. Doesn't have to be a big event. Um, you know, and then he just had this, he wasn't one of those larger than life drivers. He was just an everyday down to earth guy when he was at the track and everything. He was always approachable, it seemed like. He never got too full of his accomplishments. But again, it just shows, we talk about or we see, especially a couple years ago with the 75th anniversary, and Greg was on that list of greatest drivers because he's a Truck Series champion, he's a Busch Series champion, and with
It's close to
one
a
or two
cup.
this close to being a Cup Series champion. He's one of those guys that I was really pulling for to finally one of the guys that I thought could complete that triple check mark before we moved into the playoff and chase era. Like he was that good. And I think he was very underrated and his career got cut short, unfortunately, due to the way Roush was managed, I think. Because I think he still had it by far. And you saw it when he won the truck race, for example. So, but yeah, I never met him, didn't get to know him like that. But I mean, when you see that, and we haven't had a driver loss like that or an accident like that that claimed the life of a top level driver or anything like that in a long time within the sport. So it's a harsh reminder of just how dangerous their week to week life is when they're going to and from these different events. When they're traveling all over the country, whether it's for sponsorship appearances or for the races themselves. Just what they're risking with this with privatized air flight. They say air travel is very safe, and it is, but when you're talking about private airplanes, well, your smaller aircraft are in a totally different category, and it's very unfortunate. I was surprised when I saw that news, and they said it was owned by him, but they didn't say who was on it. And the fact that you didn't see anything from anyone within the Biffle family immediately after the crash, or his direct representatives almost told you that it was at least he was on board, which was just shocking because, again, it's just not something you expect to see or hear. Uh,
No,
but yeah, I agree with you. I think we overuse the term hero in our society a lot of times because we look at these heroes as or idolize them for their performance on the field, but he was a genuinely good human being. He did all that stuff out of his own pocket. Now he was able to do that because of the support throughout the years with those sponsors and the support from his fans. Stick with the Biff. It just it. You almost have to be able. I'm kind of I haven't really said much about it on social or anything else because I'm just kind of at a loss for words. You don't expect you there's no way to expect or plan for something like that. Like I really thought, thinking about Biffle's tragedy, like I thought a couple of years ago when Ryan Newman had his wreck, like that was the end. And thankfully, miraculously, it wasn't for him. Um, but yeah,
you
just
know, you think
yeah,
of these guys as, invincible, right? You see a
yeah.
big
I
nasty
think
wreck
that's
at,
it. Yeah,
at you see a big nasty wreck at a super speedway and they walk away and you don't think these guys can be touched. And just like that, I mean, just I think we got to be thinking and praying for the families. I mean, uh,
yeah, absolutely.
one of the people that I honestly, um, Cletus, man, I know he's tearing it up right now. I'm sure he's hurting. And then I'm gonna say this one too, Nicole. Emma was from Greg's first marriage,
Yeah,
and so Nicole was not on the plane. I can't imagine that phone call. I just, my
yeah,
thoughts and prayers are with them because, you know, uh, I can't imagine getting that phone call. And then, Cletus, that's where they were headed. They
yeah,
were headed down to go see him. And so, just pray for those guys because I'm sure they're really struggling with it right now. And they're gonna need a lot of support and a lot of thoughts and prayers to be able to get through this time because it's gonna take a lot to get through it.
yeah.
I can't imagine, man.
I was happy to see the article from Secretary Duffy because of what his impact was last year. So many big name players, participants of teams, when they pass away, they might get for their notoriety on the field, they get recognized. But it was nice to see the Secretary of Transportation, the President of the United States, regardless of what your political affiliation or thoughts are, recognize Greg for his contributions to his countrymen, especially to his fellow statesmen, within North Carolina. Again, this is, he doesn't, when these guys earn their money, they don't have to do anything when they leave. They can fade into the background and nobody notice them. But when he had an opportunity to help, he took it. Him and his
Yeah,
family spent the money that he raced a lifetime to earn to help everyday people like you, and that should never be overlooked. It's an amazing contribution. And yeah, I feel very much. I was thinking about that too. So I remember there was a couple articles a couple years back about his nasty divorce and leading up to it and everything, and the issues that he and his first wife had, and yeah, I can't imagine what she's going through. Regardless of any animosity they may have had as husband and wife, they were still parents to that young girl, and now she's as a mother, both having to mourn the loss of a child, but also the father of that child that they, conceived in love at one
yeah,
point. So that's, I can't imagine what I would do if I was trying to square up with that or ask my wife to square up with that, if we lost our child. So I can't even put into words what that would be like trying to understand that.
it's funny. We got to see. Um, they were just up here for the race. Get to see Ryder playing in the mud, playing, getting to ride the bulldozer and just being a kid. I mean, he
Yep.
was 5-year-old kid, just, loved being with his dad. You could tell, everybody, all the participants of the race, they giving knuckles and high fiving and razzing for Biffle being his dad. And, you could tell, he loved his dad, and you could tell that Greg just loved having him around, uh, being goofy. I mean, there was a video the other day. Biffle bought a flamethrower and he was letting him play with it. It was hilarious, and just, he had a good time. He was running around like a little boy would at a dirt track, man. He was having a ball, and just a precious little kid. And I again, I just my heart aches for the whole family. Last night, one of the news crews called Christina's mom, and they were just over there visiting. And she said he was begging to open a Christmas present up early, and she said, "Man, I wish I'd let him just have one." And just the thought that people like that are going to be struggling, man, you just hope that they're able to
Yeah.
get through it. But I wanted to, so I this is just some of the ones that I saw. These are people that took time to either write a message or say something about Biffle. Jeff Gordon, Richard Petty, Tony Stewart, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Mark Martin, Ricky Stenhouse, Joey Logano, Casey Kane, Daniel Hemrick, Corey LaJoy, Jeremy Mayfield, David Reagan, Kenny Wallace, among a multitude of others that have said nothing but kind words and how much respect they had for Biffle. And so for all these people to take the time to say, man, we're going to miss him, and you know, I think somebody put it best. Nobody really hated Biffle. There's people that I can't stand. Tony Stewart. I can't stand Kyle Busch. I can't stand Joey Logano. You never really heard that with Biffle. You never heard, man, stupid Biffle won the race today. I can't stand him. He was just kind of one of the likable ones. And
Yeah, and he never really did anything flashy either. He was just good.
he was just good. I mean, three in a row at Homestead, man. He owned that joint.
Yep.
He was tremendous there. Darlington, he was really good. Michigan, man, when they lined up at Michigan, you knew you were going to have to race that 16 car, and just
I never
he
really
was
could think of a scenario where he pissed anybody off. And then, I was
him
thinking,
and him and Harvick
well, I was gonna
was at
say, and then I
Bristol, I
pictured
think. Yeah,
Harvick coming over the hood. Like that was one of the first things I was thinking about, was waiting to see what Harvick would say. Because, and Harvick talks about it in his every now and then, he's like, when I would do that, they would always say, like, if you're not running well, that's one of the things, give them something to talk about. And that was kind of one of those moments where, yeah, I was a little upset, but it was more about, changing the discussion point. Like, how do I
yeah,
interject it? And it's a memorable thing. And you don't really even remember what it was that Biffle did to irritate him. The only thing you remember is here comes Harvick like a jackrabbit over that hood of that car, all pissed off. And
yep,
they're both these, extremely talented drivers who are at the time young in their careers and the future of the sport. And would
yeah.
contend and win championships at different levels, and just embodied, like you said, what a hero really is.
Yeah.
That's really the best thing you can
And
say about Greg
and
is, what his impact on the track. Uh, he's in a very rare group by himself, but his impact off the track, like, supersedes anything that he did on the track by far. Just,
he always, I made a Facebook post about it. He always took time for me. We'd always, because we were so close and because of where the money went, and everything that he stood for, we would go to the dirt track racing over there at the Triple B Ranch, and he always would make time, you know, for us, the local guys. I'd go with a car in my back pocket, and he'd sign it, and take pictures with us. And um, one of the years, now I want to give us a little bit of a funny story. Try not to be completely all sad. One of the things that, if you're running this race at the Triple B Ranch, the drink of choice is Michelob Ultra.
okay.
So every driver's got a Michelob Ultra in their hand, and Biffle's pointing and drinking, and they're having a good old time. Definitely not a FIA sanctioned event by any means. So, uh, They were absolutely getting everything ready. It had rained, and so they were really trying to get the track in good shape. Well, nobody brought a set of flags. Nobody had a set of flags. And I was like, I live 5 minutes down the road. Give me just a minute and I'll be right back. And so I drove back home and I had a collector's set of flags, threw it in the car, got back over there, and he goes, great, you're flagging the race. And I will
That's
never,
awesome.
you will never be able to take that away from me. Getting to flag a race at the Triple B 100. I remember a car spun out and I threw a caution. And Greg come back over to me. Hey, he got it straightened back out and kept on going. Don't throw a caution unless somebody ain't moving. So getting scolded by Biffle for throwing a yellow flag is and having to go get a yellow flag because nobody, or having to go get a set of flags because nobody thought to bring one, uh, was was hilarious. And that's something that I'll never forget. A good memory of Greg and getting to go over there and do that. And that was always a blast, man. They love doing that. The locals, another thing is it was mostly locals. There was a couple years, I think Casey Kane tried to kill himself. He drove off into turn two and forgot to turn and wound up in the woods. That one was great.
Yep, I think I heard
Um,
about that one once or twice.
that
Yeah.
one was pretty. That one was pretty good, but he's always let the locals run. So like some of the muffler shops and car shops, they'd always bring a Crown Vic and run, and it was the good old boys.
I
It was
remember
it,
hearing about it and how like if your car just stopped performing, you just kind of drive up over the banking and park it in the woods or whatever.
so there was he put a retaining wall up this year, but in
Okay.
previous years there was nothing, and
Yeah.
so you just kind of made do. But he opened it up to the public a couple years ago, and he said, "Look, if you bring some souped up car," he had a pallet of cinder blocks delivered, and said, "If you bring a car that is too hopped up, we're just going to throw cinder blocks in your trunk until the car won't go anymore." So he warned everybody, he's like, "You bring a souped up car, we're just going to throw cinder blocks in the back of it, and you won't be able to go." But those were some of my favorite personal memories of Greg, and I definitely am glad that I got to do this to share that with folks that maybe can get a laugh out of that, out of a good memory from Greg.
Okay. Yeah, it just we talked a lot about Greg, but back to your point, it's not just about him, it's about the others, his family, the pilots, feel for their families, uh, you know, and the other people that were on that plane. It's incredibly sad, especially like you said, we're a week before Christmas, and it's never great to lose anyone, but you're talking about that time of year, and so we just wanted to take a minute to share some thoughts. And I did see, I don't know if you've seen them, but I've seen a lot of people on Twitter suggesting that, that NASCAR should create a humanitarian award in
Absolutely,
his
and they
honor.
should.
And I agree.
They should.
We have the Betty Jean France Award or Jane France Award. Um, I'm hoping that Biffle's name is listed in the nominations for Hall of Fame candidates next year. He's
Yep.
definitely a Hall of Fame worthy guy, with his 50 plus wins, two championships at two of the three national levels, finished second a couple times, constantly contending, always a stand up, class act driver. And then, his actions outside, I don't know what else you can ask for somebody from your sport to embody to be a Hall of Fame worthy candidate. He's what you want. You want somebody that carries that mantle once they're done and represents your brand in a way that is, that reflects in a positive light on you. And I don't know what else someone can do to reflect more positively than what Greg did, with his annual fundraiser and then the foundation he had while he was in racing, and then what he did during the hurricane. Like I said, had a direct impact on so many, uh, while also putting himself in danger because again, those trees are unstable and there's small clearings getting in and out of those areas. Just the conditions from which he and Cletus and all those pilots worked were amazing. While everybody was, basically standing around with their dick in their hand at the national level trying to figure out like who's responsible for helping. They didn't wait, they didn't ask, they just did it. And
Yep.
that's what you want. You want people who just do it because they know that's what's right. So that's all I've got to say. Anything else?
Oh, I will say he did get honored a couple weeks ago. He's now in the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame, and they they put their face on the sidewalk, and there was a nice little memorial there. People have been bringing flowers and stuff, but he did get into that Hall of Fame, and I'm with you. I think um, absolutely Hall of Famer. I think what you do off the track matters just as much as what you do on the track, and I can't think of anybody that's done more than him, and I hope that that gets some consideration. I do hope that there is some sort of Greg Biffle humanitarian award. I think they should do that. They were talking. There's been a couple things around here. They want to rename a section of Interstate 40, Greg Biffle
I saw
Memorial
that as well.
Highway. I hope that goes through. I think
Yeah, the area they were rebuilding that was washed out during the hurricane and everything. That would
I
be
think
fantastic.
I think I think those are all things that absolutely should be done, and I hope there's not any resistance to that. I don't know. I don't think there should be, but
Yeah.
just great loss, and it's good to it's good to talk about these things. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to do it because I was feeling pretty lousy about it. I mean, we're hurting.
Yeah.
Us fans, doesn't matter. Earnhardt fan, Gordon fan, we're a family of fans, and we're hurting right now.
Yeah.
And it's good to talk about it. It's good to get it out, and I appreciate the opportunity to tell a funny story and to tell my point of view from what I got to see him do and all the work and effort that he did. And just I want to thank you for that opportunity. And that's about all I got to say.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I love hearing those kind of personal stories, just because, you know, they, when you're watching them as a fan, if you're not around them, you don't always see, like, they always seem, like you said, untouchable, invincible, larger than life. And it's hard to remember that they're just a human being like everybody else and they just put their pants on the same way. And so I think it's great because it revitalizes that human component of who they were, outside of the driver's suit. So that they weren't just this athlete over here who was perceived as larger than life, that he did truly something meaningful with what he accomplished. So that's all we got there. We're going to do some more smaller stuff once we hopefully get a format for next year. But for now, we're going to keep this one just to remembering a credible driver, and his family, and those that were on that plane, and the unfortunate loss that the NASCAR community and their families lost this past week. So, thank you for your time, everybody. Have a great holiday.